All right, Jamie, thank you for talking to us about diversity and equity. Now let's talk a bit about inclusion. Can you tell us what is inclusion?
Inclusion is a place where people feel valued and respected, regardless of who you are. So it can be at both an individual level, the feeling of being included, of feeling like you belong, and also at a social level, the feeling like you as an individual with all of the groups that you belong to are included, not just tolerated, but accepted and integrated.
Why does inclusion matter?
Inclusion matters because diversity exists. Inclusion matters because we come from many different backgrounds, and having those many different backgrounds that influence us, we all have a need to be valued and respected. And we all should be given the right to be valued and respected.
Okay, so how can we foster inclusive environments?
The first thing that we need to do to understand how to make inclusive environments is to recognize that different people may feel like they belong in different ways. So just like equity, we need to listen to the people who are experiencing. But we also need policies and procedures. We need leadership and champions of inclusion. Because you can have a workplace, and in that workplace you could have top-down ways of formulating inclusivity. You have leadership that really cares about making sure everybody feels like they belong. Or you could have champions that are in there that are really advocating for the needs of especially marginalized or vulnerable groups and their rights and responsibilities in that space. So in this ideal situation, you have both, and you have people, personnel who care about inclusion and therefore experience it. But that's not enough, because if you can imagine you're in an inclusive environment or a workplace or a school or a government, like a government institution, that's not going to work if you live in a society that is not inclusive. So if somebody goes into an environment and they feel included and they leave that environment and suddenly everybody treats them or their group differently, that's not going to work. So you need broader social inclusion to help really bridge the gap,
Right.
to make those efforts of champions and leaders effective, so that people can feel a sense of continuity of meaning across all of their environments, and feel not just that some people care about them, or their boss or their colleagues care about them, or their peers at school and their teachers care about them, but rather that they are accepted and included and that they belong.
What would an inclusive society or workplace look like?
It would look like a place where you started is not just tolerated but celebrated, that differences are understood, and that different perspectives and their influence, their positive influence, is really well understood. But it would also look like a place where people are happy, healthy and well, because feeling valued is really strongly related to both mental and physical health. So if we live in environments where there is social inclusion, people are likely to be able to be celebrated for who they are, to feel good about themselves, and then that, because nations are made up of people and societies and communities are made up of individuals, would mean that those societies are more likely to have high levels of human development and better economic prosperity and social prosperity, because people are happier and healthier and doing well. So less burden on the society because people feel valued.
How does diversity, equity and inclusion all relate? How do they work together?
So, diversity is the state of being, and we can live in more or less diverse places. But as I mentioned already, nobody lives in places that are no longer that are not diverse. We all live with a sense of heterogeneity. So diversity is like a demographic characteristic, a place where many different people exist. Equity helps us understand that some of those groups are more privileged over others and gives us a mechanism to manage diversity so that we can potentially have equal outcomes. I mean, like, equality obviously is an idealized state that we're trying to achieve, and we're quite far off. But equity can help us get there in context of diversity. Now, inclusion is the place where that most ideal place, where in context of diversity, where there's the potential for equality, people will feel valued and respected and feel like that they belong. So we can live in diverse societies that are non-inclusive or non-equitable, and we won't get those same outcomes. We won't get those positive outcomes. So we can kind of see inclusion as a really positive outcome of those situations that I was just talking about.
Right, so what you're saying is diversity is just our way of being. It is the fact of life at the moment. And being equitable and getting to a state of equality can help foster a sense of inclusion and belonging for diverse people.
That's exactly right. So we can kind of see inclusion as the very top of that ladder. And we can see where societies or organizations and institutions are doing it well because they are finding that they're getting inclusivity as an outcome.
Right. I really appreciate your time today talking to us about diversity, equity, inclusion. Definitely very thought-provoking and helpful. Thank you.